いてない？
うん。
とびっきり美味しいの作るね。
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Danny here, and today I am talking to you about Goblin Slayer. Yes, that is correct. We are back. This is going to be part 2 of what might be a continuing thing for Goblin Slayer. As I come to find out, there is a lot of content involving Goblin Slayer that I'm interested in. So today we'll be talking about Goblin Slayer Side Story Year 1, aka Goblin Slayer Gaiden. I mentioned it on the last review. But before we get into that, let's get into the main series that is Goblin Slayer. This is based off of the light novel written by Kumo Kagyu. The mangaka doing this is Kosuke Kurose. And last time I talked to you guys, I was at chapter 18. And I went ahead and checked where that was at in the manga. That was when they first met the Holy Sword Maiden, right when they entered that town to go deal with these goblins that are living in like the canal area of the place. And now we're at 41 chapters. It's been almost 2 whole years since I last talked about Goblin Slayer in depth on the podcast. And this is a monthly manga, remind you, and it's on Monthly Big Ganging out in Japan. So, yeah, 41 chapters. I went ahead and listened to the previous review, kind of refresh of what my thoughts were. And I have to say, I was a little surprised. I gave it a lot more hate than I remembered, you know. I was a little more negative, like heavily negative on the review. Just to go over the highlights of Goblin Slayer. Main premise, our main character is an adventurer, silver rank. It's pretty high up there. I think it's the 3rd highest rank in the guild rankings that they have. He's given a nickname called Goblin Slayer. When he was young, his village was invaded by goblins, annihilated, only survivor, and he witnessed everything that happened, mainly to his sister in the home, which is pretty traumatic. And then from there, we jump cut to the present. And yeah, he's silver rank. He's been doing this for 5 years, and all he ever does is kill goblins. And then along the way, we meet our other main characters, explore more about the world, and that is pretty much all you really need to know about Goblin Slayer, other than it can get pretty graphic, like Berserk level kind of craziness. Art is fantastic, and let's get into it, man. So, yeah, last episode, I didn't really recommend it that much, mainly because I felt the trend for this series was going to be going a very generic route, right? Very typical, a lot of cliches, not much depth in the storytelling or the characters, and really listening to it, it kind of sounded like I was Wooly from Castle Super Beast back when they were best friends. That's when the anime came out, was super hyped, and he was like, it's just not for me, you know, and all the feelings he was giving, I'm like, oh, that sounds like what I was saying, you know. And my main thing was I didn't want Goblin Slayer to change as a character and as a concept, right? Because it's like, I know you can only do so much with goblins, but, you know, him branching out, I thought was going to be a very negative thing. So I was pretty, I had some things to say, I guess. And here I am now, 41 chapters in to the main line, and I just read a side story overnight. You know, it took like 2 hours to catch up to. I have to say, I've kind of come around with Goblin Slayer. Yeah, you know, it's still pretty average from last time we talked. You know, things are pretty good. There was the one thing it has going for it that's a problem for me is that it is monthly, yes, but the pacing just doesn't feel like it's monthly, right? It kind of treats itself as a weekly series. Now, that might have to be because it's being adapted from a light novel, right? Versus it being a manga. You know, it comes out periodically at certain points, and then the light novel, like, just one book is out. And, you know, I don't know how many chapters that translates to for the manga. So, pacing-wise, I can understand how that could be a problem. But they should be able to fix with that, both editor and mangaka. Yeah, that's my problem. Other than that, though, the story, if you do binge read it, actually goes very smoothly. One of the big arcs that happened post what I reviewed was this festival that was going on, and it was pretty slow to go through, mainly because, again, it's monthly, but slice of life stuff, kind of quality. We do see some growth from Goblin Slayer here, and I thought, you know what, yeah, I'm okay with it. He is basically, as I said before, Guts in this series. He is actually growing as a character here, starting to open up more in the main storyline. So that stuff is fine. Where we're at now, things are kind of picking up again with goblins and whatever we're trying to do here. They're trying to keep it more interesting. And yeah, sure, there were a few things I forgot. I kind of skimmed through the chapters that I've read since the last review, and there was one panel specifically saying with the elf to Goblin Slayer, okay, I'll help you with what you need, but you're gonna have to come on an adventure with me. He thinks about it. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Another panel later down, like a chapter or two later, he says, I'm thinking of adventures do sound fun. So he's opening up as a character, which now I think it's fine to see versus before, where, as I said, like, oh god, I don't want it. But yeah, still, goblins, I think, should still be one of the main focuses here. But yeah, story arcs and just characters are slowly becoming very generic, very harem-esque, as a lot of typical shonen series are nowadays. So I can't really blame them for that. Plus, it's based off of a light novel, which I haven't read, but as a light novel it is what it is. So aside from that, I still think Goblin Slayer is pretty decent. I did watch a few clips from the anime, and is it really that hard to animate armor, I guess? Because a lot of shots, he's in CG, and sometimes it looks fine. Sometimes I'm like, this looks like a cutscene from a game, which, I mean, it's not bad, but still, it's like, wow, like, there's a lot of CG with him. So there's that. But yes, I will continue reading Goblin Slayer. I do want to see where it goes more, as we're exploring more of the world and characters. I think I'm slowly becoming more invested to that. And again, this is a very much RPG-esque type of series, right? So it's just like, you have your members, you have your types, you have your certain number of spells you could use per battle kind of thing, or per day, however they explain it in the series. So that is one thing that really off-puts a lot of people. For me, I think it's interesting, so I will stick to it until I guess it ends, or I'm just done with it. But until that happens, let's get into what we're really going to talk about today. I read through the current chapters for Goblin Slayer's side story, 32 in total. This is a bi-monthly series, meaning it comes out every other week. And this started, I think, a year after Goblin Slayer dropped. So this is why it caught up. And also, this was a light novel, and it's being adapted into a manga. And it is drawn by Noboru Kanatsuki, which is the artist for the light novels. Now, I try to cross-reference this information. I went on Wikipedia and I went on My Anime List, and they have different credits for the authors and artists. So I'm going with the Wikipedia info here. And the writer for the manga adaptation is Kento Ada. I believe it's somebody else in the My Anime List info, as well as the artist. So this is a team working on it, and the art, skimming through Goblin Slayer again, I'm pretty sure this is the same artist as the mainline manga, and it was just credited as for one mangaka. I didn't really see who the artist was, but Noboru is the artist for the light novel, so maybe that's just him doing the manga. I don't know. It was all really, really all over the place. Published again by Yen Press out here in the States, and it is a Young Gangan magazine that's doing this, and these are all connected, all these magazines under Square Enix, I guess. So, yeah, 32 chapters. It is called Year 1, as we explore the first year of Goblin Slayer being an adventurer so far. Starts off kind of the same. You know, we get the backstory, tragically, with his whole village annihilated. We get more about his past. We see his trainer, his teacher, that shows him what to do. And after reskimming the main line, there were mentions of him before, even shots of maybe just his mouth, really, in the manga. But yeah, he does look kind of goblin-esque. So maybe that's saying something. There's always that thing going around, like, oh yeah, if he keeps doing this, eventually he himself will become a goblin, kind of thing. And that's what his teacher kind of looked like. But I doubt his teacher specialized in goblin killing, because as we read here, young Goblin Slayer learned along the way. He was pretty rusty. I mean, he had his basic training that he did for a good amount of years. But yeah, I don't know, he kind of learned a lot on the way. We're introduced to familiar faces. One of the main characters here besides him is the childhood friend who lives on the farm with him. I forget her name, so I will look that up. But she sees him, and we actually get a lot more with her in the main line, mainly because, yeah, this is, I guess, before he really goes out there, I guess. So, here we go, female characters. Other than that, you know, this is one of those series where it's really showing, I think too much service, in the sense of, you know, the problem with movies, you know, with movies going back, like Solo, for example. A lot of problems was, why are they going to show us all this stuff that we don't need to see, right? And for me here, that's kind of what we're feeling. This should be focused on Goblin Slayer and his childhood friend, whose name is, I guess she doesn't get a name either. Right. Okay. So, yeah, because Goblin Slayer does not have a name as well. Anyways, aside from all that, yeah, it should be focused on them and basically what Goblin Slayer does along the way. And where I read, he already was getting the nickname Goblin Slayer. He got it, I think, about like a third of the way in. So we get, yeah, a lot of familiar faces, a little too many familiar faces. It's interesting to see the dynamic with him and other characters who aren't part of his party, right? Like the reception girl, who I believe does not have a name either. And we see their relationship unfold on her perspective a lot more, which is, I think, the benefit for this. I thought it was going to be just a short run series, like maybe like 2-3 volumes, as a lot of guidance are. But no, this is still ongoing, and it's not done yet. I doubt it will continue after 1 year has passed, unless they branch off to year 2 kind of thing. I don't know. There is a 5-year gap between when he started and where chapter 1 starts for the mainline series. So we get a lot of origins for characters. We even see the maiden that travels along with Goblin Slayer at a certain point, which I don't know how I feel about that. That's just one of those things, like, yeah, a lot of this is a little too coincidence, right? I don't need to see all of this, right? We really don't. I guess the explanation of how his horns broke on his helmet, sure, that's fine, I guess. And then we see a lot of high-ranking silver adventurers that started around the same time he did. It's the spear user and the witch that looks like she's from Dragon Crown in there. And then we get interactions with them. And we're introduced to this guy who started on the same day as Goblin Slayer. And he kind of went down a unfortunate path with his team. A member died, one lost his arm, and now he's, just really depressed about it, but then he kind of overcame it, and he's more confident now, and he's kind of doing his own thing, and he pops up every now and then now that he's less focused with this arc that was going on. Every now and then he'll pop up, and I don't recall seeing this person ever in the mainline series, so I wonder if he's going to come back in the mainline. Is he going to die at some point? But, they're really giving him a lot of screen time in this side story here. And we're introduced to this, I guess, alchemist who lives by herself on the opposite end of the farm. And just like Goblin Slayer, she's a little bit weird. And she helps the guild with their monster encyclopedia, at least at the time when Goblin Slayer asked her to identify a magic item. And we get more with her. And that's kind of pretty much all around what you are going to expect to see here. And yeah, I'm kind of fine with it. Other than just really digging into how Goblin Slayer became Goblin Slayer, which it's one of those things where it's always 50-50 if this should be shown or not, right? This is not as, deep or interesting as it is with Guts during the Golden Age arc, right? But the benefits to this side story is we see more of the side characters who cannot get a lot of screen time because as they go out to hunt goblins, we're just solely focused on the party. And there's, little character progression as there is in Goblin Slayer. A few characters will shine here and there, but, once you've seen most of the characters in Goblin Slayer, they really don't go any further. They might get small character progressions or huge ones, but yeah, there's really nothing. You're mainly just here for the adventures and the goblin killing, right? Which is good here. Again, just like the main line in the side story, the choreography I think is pretty solid. The art really complements everything, and especially when Goblin Slayer goes like berserk. The art's always fantastic. And I think other than that, it's all right. If you're a fan of Goblin Slayer, definitely check it out. It's kind of just more content. Because my problem is like, oh man, like a month always feels so long with Goblin Slayer. And it's usually, and it's at the end of the month too, so it feels even longer than what it should feel like. But other than that, yeah, definitely check out Goblin Slayer Side Story Year 1. Some of the cool stuff here is you just get to explore the world more. And I think it's refreshing too, since Goblin Slayer is a novice into this world. We do get a little bit of exposition here and there, which kind of helps later down the line. And yep, that's going to be it for the side story. There's 3 volumes out now in the West. Again, it's by Yen Press. I'm thinking about copping Volume 1, maybe, I don't know, because as I found out, there's, I think, at least 2 more side stories that I'm probably going to check out. And again, those are more into the world exploring, understanding more of what's going on. There's one that I'll probably read next to tease you guys, is with the Holy Sword Maiden, back when she was still an adventurer, when they were fighting the demon lords, demon clan, or whatever it was. So I'll be looking forward to that, and that's going to be a while to come out, as this will alternate with Gintama, and I'll mention it over there again as well. So overall, Goblin Slayer, it's one of those series where it's not amazing, but it's not too horrible, and has the right amount of stuff that you would want in a shonen series. And sure, it can get a little dark sometimes, but there is the humor. And it kind of, for me, it kind of just floats there. I'm always pumped to see it, Goblin Slayer, show up, because you never know what quality content's going to be in that chapter, right? Whether it's going to be Goblin Slayer being a badass, whether it's going to be some harem stuff, and as this series progressed further, the art has become that specific route. That's Goblin Slayer, man. You're there for 2 things, and they're both there, so that's good. I do kind of wish it would get more serious. But I think it's kind of fine. Sometimes you just need that middle playground to be good, and I think Goblin Slayer is perfect for that. So that's all I have to say, guys. Are you reading Goblin Slayer? Have you checked out this side story? What are your thoughts? We would love to hear it. You can email us unversedpodcast@gmail.com for any of those questions, comments, concerns. We would love to talk about them on the next episode. And you can follow us at Unversed Podcast anywhere on social media. Stay updated on the latest episodes. And that is going to be all, guys. So thanks for listening. So let's sit back and listen to some music.
Rolled out in the frame, nigga bucked on my shoulder while I'm walking to church. Sanctuary, my home, and I've been needing to pray. Isolate in my room and ash the curb on the J. Slim looking too hard, bitch, I wish that you would. Take a step on that sandbar, my fist is the moon.
Switch, I'm ending your lights and stick my head in the goons. I pick the corner at 12, the tide is higher at noon. My heart is nuclear fissure, I split an atom in two. Only soul in the luna, me mommy pop with a tool. She holding calling me poppy, I pop like party balloons. I pop like shots in the new year, you poppy in truth. $1 million in a Bentley, wishing harder for an answer. I was sober when you met me, changes happen when I met love. They was standing on my friendship, only kept me cause you hate low. Soon say, don't say, what you should say when you get close.
Fuck boy, why you running around? See your spot, nigga, running your house. Pop shit, you get sent to the cloud. 10 niggas with 100 rounds. Talk loud, I could cry you down. No beef, you get sent to the ground. No seat, getting knocked in the mouth. No speak, we go pound for the pound. No speak, you a talk of a sight. Smoke cheap, then you bleed in the mouth. Slow freak with your weakness in sight. No lead, but I'm hitting the sound. Fuck nigga, I bust in your head. Bird box when I'm off of the head. Medicated when I'm meditating. Heavy burden, I'ma set it straight in.
Your message got me over.